Are you tired of spending too much of your hard-earned money at the supermarket? Are you dreaming of farm-fresh eggs, homegrown veggies, and homemade everything? Well, welcome to Ditch the Store, where we break free from supermarket dependence and take back control of our food and household essentials. I'm CJ, and I'm here to show you that life is too short for store-bought eggs. So let's get started. G'day and welcome to another episode of Ditch the Store. Episode 163 this week, and we are talking about preserving herbs and looking after your herbs that you're getting out of your garden at the end of autumn. Okay, sorry, having a bit of a moment. I'm a bit croaky today. So what we want to do is try and look after any herbs that we've got coming out of the garden. If you've been following this month, you would have seen that we've gone through our composting, we've done our winter veggies going into the ground, we've done our May cleanup jobs, and during the May cleanup jobs, we did discuss pulling anything out of the ground that needs to come out. So if you've got some big bushy herbs out there, over winter, they may die off. So now is a good time, depending on whether they're annuals or pre-annuals. I can never say that word properly, pre-annual. You know what I mean. They're going to keep growing and grow again next year. So depending on what type of herbs you've got, you might want to cut them right back. And it's a good time to harvest them. And then obviously you're going to have a glut of herbs. Now, once you've cut them all back, what do you do with them? Well, it drives me nuts that every time I go to the shops and when I go grocery shopping, because I still, even though we're ditching the store, I still have to go to the grocery store for things, especially this year with the broken leg. It drives me nuts that herbs are like $3, $4, $5 for a bunch, and they never last. You put them in the fridge, you use them for 2 meals, and then you go back and they're all wilted and soggy. And I know you can get things like herb keepers that you stick them in and they stay fresh for longer and all that. But it's just so much nicer getting them out of your own garden. And if you know how to preserve them, you're going to end up with herbs all year round that flavour-wise just don't even compare to what you get at the supermarket. So I'm going to walk through today the methods that I use, and I don't use all of these methods all the time, but these are ones I have tried and they've worked. The first one is drying. Second, freezing, which works for some herbs but not all. Herb butters. I am a big butter consumer in this house. We do not use margarine or any other of the oils for cooking. Now that we know what we know about animal fats not having this horrible impact on your lifestyle, and it's actually carbohydrates causing all the cholesterol problems, we cook exclusively with butter. So herb butters are awesome. Garlic butter's awesome. Herb butters are awesome too. Herb salts, which I have used before, and I'll talk a bit more about in a minute, and infused oils, which I used to do up. I used to do up infused oils and give them to people as presents. I don't know whether anybody ever used them or not, but I figured they look good. They look like a nice present. So whatever you choose out of those things, you don't have to do all of them. Pick the one that's going to suit you and go with that. Now, by the time this episode goes to air, if you are following us on Mojo Homestead, you should know the updates on my leg, because I will have been out of hospital by now. And this is why I'm batch recording in advance, because I have to go into hospital and have another surgery. The surgery, the bone is not healing, and so I need to have this second surgery to try. This will be surgery number 5 or 6 on the same leg. So I'm kind of hoping that we're going to get to a point where it starts to get better, because I'm really over having surgeries. I don't think it's good for my system, but I also, it's painful. Nobody wants to be in pain. I don't like being in pain. So, but let's start. Why bother preserving herbs? Well, there's a couple of really obvious ones, because I am such a tight ass, so everybody would be able to guess the first one. But when you grow your own herbs and preserve them properly, there's a few things. One, you save money, which for me as a tight ass, that's king. Like anywhere between $4 and $6 at the supermarket for a bunch of herbs, and realistically, like I say, you use them maybe in 2 meals, and then the next thing you know, they're wilted and looking pretty sad in the fridge, and you have to go and buy some more. So if you can dry your own herbs, and dried herbs are cheaper than fresh herbs, but if you can dry your own herbs, you could dry so much. I got one branch off a bay tree, and it lasted me a year, one whole year from drying just one. And it was a bay tree that somebody wanted cut down out of their yard, and the handy helper had gone and cut it down out of their yard. And we literally strung up these branches, and I was giving bay leaf branches away to people. I didn't do anything special. I just literally hung it up to dry, and it dried, air dried, and lasted me a whole year. So the herbs that you're buying at the supermarket too have been sitting for a very long time. That goes for any food you're buying at the supermarket. Apples taste very different when they come just off a tree compared to the apples that you buy at the supermarket. And the same is said for herbs. Herbs, they have a use-by date on them. Like the stuff that you're growing in your yard, it's going to get used before any use-by date could come round. So your home-dried herbs are going to be different to what you get in the supermarket. And that's the second thing. The flavour is so much different. And that goes for anything you grow in your garden. The flavour is going to be incomparable to what you get at the supermarket because it's fresher and it hasn't been stored in long-term storage. Things that you can dry yourself really easily, like rosemary, thyme, oregano, are all going to have a better depth of flavour than any supermarket herb that you can buy. You'll find that once you start doing this, you won't want to buy supermarket herbs. So it can be a little bit of a catch-22 because you'll never go back to them. 3, it's satisfying to grow your own. And that goes the same for anything that you grow in your garden or on your farm. I feel like, every time I don't have to purchase something from the shops because I've managed to make it or grow it or raise it here on the farm, it's like a little pat on the back. And Australians are terrible for it. We knock down tall poppies all the time. We don't let people celebrate their wins like Americans do. And I love Americans for that. They are so good at celebrating somebody else's win as well as their own win. If you're growing things in your own garden, pat yourself on the back. You've done well, and you should feel special. You should feel like you've stepped up a notch and you are being self-sufficient. It's part of the homesteading lifestyle. It's what you're aiming for. So don't shy away from it. I've got here 4. It's one of the easiest preserving methods. I don't know what I was typing there. Look, all these methods that I talk about, there is really no special equipment apart from one. You could, if you go a bit crazy, there's one that you could get some special equipment. But for the most part, you don't even need any special equipment for these ones. So we'll go through them. The first one is the simplest method of all, which is simply drying them. Now, it's the way that most herbs were dried in the past. Most herbs were preserved in the past, was to dry them and then use them as a dry herb in cooking. Certainly in the past, a lot of herbs were used for medicinal purposes as well. So they were dried to be used for medicinal purposes. But let's talk about which ones, because it doesn't work for every herb. So which herbs are the best to dry? And that is woody, low moisture herbs are your best candidates for drying. Think about rosemary, thyme, oregano, sage, bay leaves, marjoram, and lavender. They're probably the best ones for that. Just straight up drying, you don't have to worry about it. They have a low water content, and so they dry quickly, but they also retain their flavour really well. High moisture herbs like basil, parsley, chives, coriander or cilantro, to my American friends, don't dry as well. They tend to lose their flavour and they go a bit brown in that kind of air drying kind of situation and dehydrated drying system, so that it doesn't work as well. But there are other methods that you can use for them, so I'll cover those in a sec. So method 1 is air drying, which is just straight up old-fashioned. Cut the herbs in the morning after the dew is dried off them, but before the heat of the day, so you don't want them wilting. And then I've actually got a note here. Evidently their essential oils are at their peak before the middle of the day. So that's another good reason to do it in the morning. And then tie them into small bunches. Just not too thick because you want them to get lots of air circulation. Tie them into small bunches of just that particular herb. You can mix them once they're dry. If you want to mix, an Italian herb mix or something like that. And hang them upside down. So with the leaves hanging down and the root woody end pointing up, away from direct sunlight, but in a warm, dry, well-ventilated area. A shed, a covered veranda, inside near a window, but not in direct sunlight, work well. You want to leave them between 2 and 4 weeks until they're completely dry and crumbly. Now, the best way to test is just literally to squash your fingers onto a couple of leaves, a couple of bits of it. If it just breaks apart and turns to like a powder, that's it. You're good. You're dehydrated. You're ready to go. Then what you want to do is strip the leaves off the woody stems and put them into an airtight jar. Now you can put one of those little satchels in, the moisture satchels that take any moisture out of the jar as well, just in case there's any moisture in there, because you don't want them going mouldy. But you don't have to. If they're completely air dry, my bay leaves, I just chuck them in a jar and they do fine. I don't need to put anything in with them. Now, the second method for that is a dehydrator, which, that's on my list of one day things. A food dehydrator would be awesome, but you don't need it. If you have one, have at it. Go, use it. Good on you. One of my workmates has just bought one and she is dehydrating, like she went and bought a tray of mangoes to dehydrate so that she had mango pieces. You can dehydrate just about anything in those things. So if you've got one, herbs are one of the best things that you can use in there because they do dehydrate so well. So spread the single herb sprigs across a single layer of the tray, and at a low temperature. Usually the dehydrator will come with a set of instructions about what temperature to use for different fruits, different herbs, different veggies, because fruits have a lot higher moisture content. But it's usually around 35 to 40 degrees Celsius for 2 to 4 hours, depending on what you're drying. So that's obviously a much quicker process. Low and slow is the key. If you go too hot, you'll cook it and you'll lose some of the flavour out of it. Method 3 is oven drying. So you don't have a dehydrator, that is fine. If you don't want to hang them and wait 2 to 4 weeks, you can do it in your own oven. What you want to do is spread the herbs out evenly on a baking tray that's lined with paper, and make sure that they're not touching you. You really have to let the airflow kind of go between them all. Set it to its lowest temperature. So ideally under 50 degrees Celsius. You can, if that's as low as it'll go, you can leave the door of your oven cracked just slightly so that it doesn't ever get to 50. It's closer to 40, which is closer to what you want. Check it every 30 minutes. Most herbs would be done in 1 to 2 hours. And you don't want to overcook them, so keep that door open and check them and watch them carefully, because it's very easy to overdo them in the oven. Storage. Once they are dry, strip all the leaves from the stems, store in an airtight container, glass jar would be best. Label everything with what herb it is and what date you put it in there. And then keep it in a cool, dark cupboard away from the stove, away from any kind of heat or light sources. Heat and light they're not good to dried herbs. So store it in a cool, dark place. Usually you want to use them within 12 months, but to be honest, my bay leaves, I think I've still got the same jar going and it's been nearly 2 years. So they can last longer. And the best way to tell is open the jar and smell them. If they still smell like what they were when they went in there, then you're probably doing okay. Now, soft herbs. Soft herbs are a bit different. They do not dehydrate well. You'll just cook them, it won't work. So, for the high moisture herbs, and the ones we're talking about here are your basil, parsley, chives, coriander, mint. Freezing is the best way to deal with those ones. And I've got a couple of methods again for how to do that. Method 1 is the ice cube trays. It's probably the most simple, and I I want to say my favourite, but all of, any method works. Chop all your herbs finely, pack them into ice cube trays and cover them with either water or olive oil. This is the one time I do use olive oil for things like this. Freeze until solid, and then pop the cubes out and store them into a labelled Ziploc bag or container in the freezer. When you're cooking, you just grab one cube out, and it's about 1 tablespoon of whatever herb, and put it straight into the pan. Oil ones, if you do it with oil instead of water, they're really good for chucking into a fry pan when you're cooking up things like onion and garlic and stuff like that. So I would say every time I've done it, I use oil because I know that that's the way I'm more likely to use the herbs. But you can do it with water if you're really not using any kind of seed oils. That's fine. Do it with water. Just be mindful that when you try and defrost it, whatever you're putting it into, unless you want a higher water content, like if it's a risotto or something, no problems at all because the water's just going to soak into the rice anyway. But if it's in a fry pan or something like that, you might want to defrost it first out of the water, and they won't be as nice. The herbs won't be as nice when you do it that way, but it can still work. I've got here, water ones are great for soups, stews, and sauces, essentially, and your oil ones are better for when you're frying things. Method 2, the whole leaves. Some herbs can freeze as whole leaves. I've just got to grab a drink of water. I'm coughing. Sorry, folks, very coffee then. I felt like I was really croaking up. Okay, method 2, whole leaves. Some herbs freeze well as whole leaves. Basil is the exception. Basil, if you try and freeze it whole, the leaves will just go black and it'll be horrible. You won't want to use them. But parsley, mint and chives can be frozen into small portions in Ziploc bags. Now, mint, we used to get heaps of mint up at Gunning, and I used to freeze that because it was just the easiest way to do it, because then you can get out, you can either put it in as whole leaves or you can chop it up, you can do whatever you like. Parsley, mint, chives into Ziploc bags, flatten them out so that they're kind of not bunched up. And the reason for that is because when you're trying to take some out, it's harder if it's just one big frozen clump. So if you have it separated, it's better. Method 3 is a herb paste. Now this one is, I have not tried this other than, I did try, it might have been with mint, I tried it. But yeah, this one, I'll probably try it a bit more often because I actually prefer to use it like this. Blend all your herbs with a little bit of olive oil into a paste and then freeze it into a small portion. Now that could work too where you are trying to do a mix, a blend. So you might want to do basil and mint together, or chives and mint together. And so you can blend it all up with the olive oil all in one go. Put it into ice cube trays is probably the easiest. That way you have a good sized portion kind of thing. Or a silicone muffin tray if you're doing bigger portions. Basil pesto frozen into cubes works really well like that, and you would do that in the bigger muffin size trays. Keep it in your freezer. When you want to use it, out into your pasta, and away you go. Now, a note on texture, because at the end of the day, fresh is always going to be better than frozen. So I don't want you to go into it thinking that, oh, well, I'll freeze it and it's going to come out and it'll be just like it was. It's the same with eggs. If they've been frozen or preserved in that way, you're never going to get, like, they can be a bit rubbery. You're never going to get the same kind of quality as what you get out of a fresh one. So frozen herbs will be soft and wilted when thawed. And they are definitely not suitable for using as garnishes or on fresh salads or anything like that. They are only suitable for cooking. Don't be disappointed if you get them out and look and go, I can't use that as a garnish or on a salad. You're never going to be able to. So the next one is herb butter. I love doing it this way because, like I say, we use a lot of butter anyway. And for me, I use it instead of the olive oil in the ice cube trays now. I do a herb butter and use it that way. It sounds fancy, but it doesn't take very long to make, and it is actually a really useful thing to have in your fridge or freezer. Now, you can use a block of butter to do this, or if you're so inclined and you have a Thermomix, you could just buy pure cream. I can never get 2 litres of pure cream here. The most I can ever get here is like 600 ml of pure cream. You can use cream and whip it as your own butter and make your own butter from scratch. I might have to post a recipe of doing that. I love making my own butter from scratch. You get the buttermilk out of it, you get the butter out of it, and I don't know why the butter always tastes better. I don't know. Anyway, if you're using just a block of butter, a 250 gram block of butter, soften it, make sure it's room temperature, and mix through a generous handful of finely chopped fresh herbs. And you can use any herb combination that you like, but I've got a couple listed here that you might like. Now, I would say do this in something like a Thermomix or in a food processor. It's going to be much easier than doing it by hand. But the mixes that I have used in the past, rosemary and garlic. I love rosemary and garlic on potatoes. It's the bomb. Parsley and chive. That's really nice for any kind of fish sauce or anything like that. Thyme and lemon zest. Cannot beat that with a chicken dish. Thyme and lemon. I don't know why. There's something about the mix on chicken is beautiful. And then mixed herbs. I make my own stock that I freeze and use, but also to making up my own mixed herbs for things like spaghetti bolognese, chili con carne. I make up my own blends of herbs for that. So you can mix it to whatever your taste is. Now, with the herb butter, a pinch of salt and a squeeze of lemon juice doesn't go astray either, going through it. It does help it mix a little bit better, just adding that little bit of moisture from the lemon juice. And the salt obviously adds to flavour. I'm a big salt proponent. I think people that don't eat salt need their head red. Sorry if I've offended you. Not sorry. Then roll it into like a log shape with some baking powder or cling wrap and twist the ends to seal. And what you can do is just freeze it like as a log. When you want to use some, you just pop it out of the freezer and cut a round off the end of however much you want to use. You can melt it over steaks. You can use it for baked chooks or chicken pieces. Veggies. We had veggies the other night, and I put butter and honey on them. It was so good. Or onto bread. Garlic butter going onto bread with some garlic herb butter, I should say, going onto bread is just the bomb. Also, too, you can use it for corn on the cob. If there's a particular herb that you like having on your corn, parsley is good with corn, you can do it that way. I've got here, makes the most amazing garlic bread. Yeah. It's in my little notes. And it keeps in the freezer for up to 3 months. That being said, I've probably kept it in the freezer for up to 6 months without a problem. It also makes a really nice gift because it looks good. You can do it like a baking paper log with little ribbons around the end of it or something, and it looks like it's come from a fancy deli or something like that. So that's a good one to use. All right, herb salt. Now this one, I've only ever done this once before, and I really did like it, but now that I use salt a lot more, I probably should get back into doing it because I think the kids will probably enjoy it too. Salt is a natural preserver. So in my stock, my veggie stock that I make, that I keep in the freezer, I put about 120 grams of rock salt into that, and that preserves it and keeps it for months. It works beautifully. If you're not sure about recipes for those, this is a Thermomix recipe. So look up Thermomix vegetable stock and you'll see what I mean. It's just a chuck together of a whole bunch of veggies and a shit tin of salt and some oil. So how do we make herb salt? And this is another one that'd be a really good gift as well, because you put it in a little jar and put a little ribbon around it and all the rest of it look really nice. So you need fresh herbs and coarse salt, either sea salt or rock salt, not table salt. Don't try and do it with table salt. The ratio is going to be roughly 1 part of fresh herbs to 4 parts of salt. So it's more salt than it is herbs. So about 25 grams of herbs to 100 grams of salt, if that makes sense. So the salt is the predominant factor. Now, blend or process the herbs and salt together until you get a coarse green flecked mixture. Again, I would do this in the thermo. I don't want to grind the salt down so that it's pulverized. I want some bigger chunks still in it. So I'd probably blitz the herbs first, then put the salt in and give it another blitz. Spread it out onto a baking tray and leave it to dry at room temperature for a day or two. If you had a dehydrator, you could absolutely put it in a dehydrator and it would be much, much quicker. But you just want it, or in an oven on a tray. In an oven on a tray, probably about an hour. So a dehydrator probably would only take about half an hour realistically. Once it is completely dry, like pull out some of the herbs out of the salt, and if they're crumbly and dry, then that's good. You're at the right point. Store it in an airtight jar. Now, you can put one of those little pouches in again, the moisture pouches, just in case there is any moisture still left in there because you don't want it going mouldy. But the salt draws the moisture out of the herbs and preserves them at the same time. And salt does that with everything. I used to make salted lemons and put the preserved lemons and put them in the fridge. And then I'd get the lemon out and it would be softened right down to like just the peel almost. And you'd cut it up and sprinkle it over salads. It was delicious. Now, once you've done that and you've got your little jar, the things that you can use it on, you can just sprinkle it over food as is. But sprinkling it over meat before you roast it is probably the best way. You can sprinkle it over veggies, over eggs. You can have it with sprinkled over some bread with some olive oil or butter on it. It's like, it reminds me, our local bakery does a thing called a salted grissini, which is just a breadstick with big bits of rock salt in it. And the kids and I absolutely love it. It's like $1 a stick. And we come home from school sometimes and we used to stop and go in and get salted grissinis. They also do sugar and cinnamon grissinis, which the kids would love as well. But having it over bread with butter, salted bread to me, because now I really enjoy having salt in my diet and realise that it's not the horrible thing that everybody made it out to be. I can't think of anything better. So the only time I would eat bread, really. So my favourites out of all of them is rosemary salt. Rosemary salt over hot chips is to die for when it's homemade like that. You will not know yourself. The rock salt wins it to start with, but rosemary, and if you do it with rosemary and garlic over chips, that's even better. Lemon and thyme salt is good for chicken. It's a good mix for chicken. And then you can just do a mixed herb one for other things that you can use as well, which is really nice. And again, as I said at the beginning, it's one of those ones that you can make up as a gift that would look really cool. Like, you can make up like a little parcel of herbed butter and your herbed salt. And the next one that I'm about to talk about, you can also use as a gift. And it's what I used to do to give to people as gifts. And that is herb-infused oils and vinegars. Now, it's a bit more involved, but it is worth it. So herb-infused oils. What you need to do is gently warm some olive oil in a saucepan. Don't let it get hot, just warm. You just want it warm. Then add your herbs to that. And I would suggest things like rosemary, thyme. You can put whole garlic cloves in. And just let them infuse on a very low heat for about 20 minutes. You then strain out the herbs and pour the oil into the sterilised bottles in the fridge. Now, I would leave some of the herb in the oil. The recipe that I found online, it kind of indicated that you shouldn't do that. But in the past, I have done that and not had a problem with it. And there is something I had to make a special note here because I don't want anybody poisoning themselves. Important note on garlic. Raw garlic in oil at room temperature can create conditions for botulism, which is a food bacteria, and it is a serious safety risk. Always store garlic-infused oil in the fridge and use it within a week or two. Now, I don't know how they get away with it in the stores when you see garlic preserved in oil on the shelf in the stores. obviously there's some kind of preservative in there that's going to kill the botulism. But anything that you're making at home like this, I would probably make smaller batches and use them more quickly rather than make a big batch. So if you put garlic in, you've got to remember that. If you are worried about it and you don't want to risk that, just put herbs in. Make it easy on yourself. Just put herbs in. If you, I've made notes here. If you want a longer shelf life, use dried garlic rather than fresh. So that's an option to get around it. And then once you've use the heat infused method that's just been mentioned, but then keep it in the fridge anyway. But herb infused oil, just without the garlic, herb infused oils are brilliant for cooking, dipping bread in, which is delish, drizzling over salad or over roasted vegetables. Rosemary over roasted vegetables with roast lamb. I can't think of anything better. Herb infused vinegar. This one is simple and it's very shelf stable. So if you're a little bit nervous about doing the oil one, go with the vinegar one. Pack fresh herbs into a sterilised glass jar or bottle and then completely cover with white wine vinegar or apple cider vinegar. Hats off to you if it's homemade apple cider vinegar made using apple SCOBY. That would be awesome. Seal it and leave it in a dark, cool place for 2 to 4 weeks. Then take the vinegar bottle out, strain out the herbs, and put the vinegar back into a clean bottle, and you have infused vinegar to use in cooking and over foods. Now, one of the classics for that one is tarragon vinegar. Rosemary and thyme vinegar is also good for salad dressing and marinades. Chive blossom. Now, they would be the actual flower of the chives, so the little white round flower. Supposedly, it goes a really nice pink colour and tastes amazing. So that might be one to try. If you grow chives, you might want to have a crack at that. If you do, upload a photo to social media and link me in so that I can, have a look at it. Nearly done. It's going to be a short episode again today. What to do if you have a glut. So you've done your herb butter, you've done your herb salt, you've dried everything, you've got jars everywhere of dried herbs, and you still have some left. What do you do? It's pretty easy. There's a couple of things you can do. One is to give some away. Now, you can do up little fresh bundles of, like dried bundles of herbs with a lovely little ribbon around it and give that to people. You could give away the herb salt or a log of herb butter. Honestly, they are really, people love that kind of stuff because it feels better when you've got a homemade gift given to you. You feel like somebody actually spent some time and made some effort to get you something nice. Neighbours, kids, school teachers, family, friends, workmates, anybody you could think of, you can give it away to. If you have a massive glut, go to the local markets and try and sell it. Dried herbs, herb salts, and herb butters sell really well at the farmers markets. I would steer away from the oils, especially if you're putting garlic in, because you would need to get food health and safety inspection done probably in regards to that. So that might be a bit over the top. But certainly if you are going to the markets to sell eggs or something, put your herbs in, try and sell them as well. Or you can donate it to community gardens, to food banks, to local community groups that cook for people. We've done that with our eggs before. When we've had gluts of eggs, we've given it to the local food bank who do big cook-ups for homeless people. And they're always interested in getting food for free. So that's a good one for that one. Now, all I want you to do is just not waste anything. That's what I want you to get out of this episode is don't waste it. If there's something you can do, and certainly try your hand at doing some of these things. You don't need much equipment. Like I said, you don't need a dehydrator. You can use your oven. You can just air dry them. But have a go at doing them. Freezing them with oil and putting them in the freezer. It's pretty simple, really. If you get something out of it, post something on social media. Let me know. I'd really, really appreciate it. because I don't have any herbs. I've got some wild mint growing up near the goat house at the moment, but I don't have any herbs at the moment because this year was a write-off for me. So definitely post a picture and link me into it so that I can see. But I mean, the main thing from my perspective is this is what I've been leading to, is not having to buy things from the shop and being able to get nice things like herb salt and herb butter and that kind of thing out of your own veggie garden rather than having to buy it from the shop. I just can't think of anything better. Anyway, that's it for me for this week. Like I say, it was a short one again. Hopefully if you're keeping up with me on social media, I will hopefully be on the mend with my leg and things will be moving forward instead of backwards. If you are looking to get on the newsletter, don't forget to go to www.mojohomestead.net and join our newsletter. If you feel so inclined to leave a review for this podcast, I would be forever grateful. I've only had a couple of reviews on the podcast and I never ask for it because I always think if somebody really wants to do it, they'll go and do it. But you know what? It helps more people find it if the reviews are higher. So if you can take 5 minutes to go and leave me a review. Don't leave me a review if it's a 1-star review because I don't want a 1-star review. So go and leave a review just so that there's more chance the algorithm will show it to other people. And next week, we've got 2 new topics coming up next week and the week after, and I can't even remember what they are. I don't know. I've drawn a complete blank because I'm too busy organising things for hospital. Anyway. You'll find out next week. Thanks everyone for listening. Bye for now. Well, that's it for today's episode of Ditch the Store. If you're loving the journey to self-sufficiency, be sure to subscribe. You can also leave a review for us or share this episode with a friend who's ready to break up with their supermarket. If you've got questions or success stories, we'd love to hear about them on the socials. You can also find me at www.mojohomestead.net. Until next time, keep raising, growing and making. And remember, life's too short for store-bought eggs.